Hello YouTube, welcome to today's video. In today's video I'm gonna be addressing some issues that I've had with soloQ and overall the ranked experience over the past few years, because I would like to finally address some of the issues that I think that are very noticeable, and I would like some changes, and I have come up with some ideas for changes that should make the soloQ and ranked experience overall better. So there are 4 core issues in my opinion, and then I have 2 bonus features. They're kind of whatever for 99% of the player base, but let's just jump into it. So to start off with the core issues, we have autofill. Nobody likes autofill, nobody likes getting autofilled, nobody likes playing with an autofill. And the reason why is simply because you're gonna be playing a different role than you normally do, meaning that you're gonna underperform severely if you're playing as a player who has a ton of experience on that role and you're almost first timing it, as well as you're going to be playing a champion on that role that you're not typically playing, due to the fact that there are not that many flex picks in League, so most champions are being picked in 1 or 2 lanes and that's it. So not only will you first time a new role, you will also first time a new champion, meaning that you will perform severely worse than your opponent, and that most likely will lead to you being the main reason why you lose the game, and your team will probably flame you. So the 2 ideas I have to fix this problem is, the first thing is to simply remove the 12-hour lockout from dodging, giving the players that are on that team to decide if they want to play with him or if they simply dodge. Nowadays, you dodge once, you lose 3 LP and you have to wait 6 minutes. Most people that really want to climb are doing this anyway daily or every single time they play League. And some people step it up and say they dodge 2 times a day, meaning that the second dodge will result in a -10 LP penalty and a 30-minute dodge timer. But after that, if you dodge 1 more time, you lose again 10 LP, but then you have to wait 12 hours before you can play again. So there are some players that are simply dodging, and if they have already dodged twice, they're now stuck in the situation where if they have an autofill player on their team, they can play a game that will be pretty bad, pretty low quality due to the fact that there's someone who's autofilled, or they can dodge it and can't play for the rest of the day. So I suggest that we remove dodging. I know that this will increase the amount of dodges that are happening, and it will mean that there's a lot more time in champion select. But then you could change the way that you can dodge, simply saying that you will dodge, like you cannot dodge after a certain amount of time, or if you dodge at the very last second compared to early, then you get a longer penalty in terms of time or more LP that you lose or something in order to fix that situation, because this is why Riot implemented this 12-hour lockout after the first dodge in the first place. So maybe just either revert the change or revert the change and then rework the dodge system. But if we don't want to remove the 12-hour lockout, I have a different solution. Make 2 different soloQ systems where you can queue up for solo duo, but you can accept to have autofills and getting autofilled yourself, and selecting no autofills, meaning that you're guaranteed to be playing one of the 2 roles that you have selected, and then have a warning text saying that if you don't accept anyone to be autofilled, then the queue time is going to be longer. It's going to be based on the same LP system, same matchmaking, just doesn't accept autofills compared to the other one. And then give people the option to choose, do they want to play with autofills or do they not want to play with autofills. And then if you see majority percentage wise of players choosing one over the other, maybe remove one of them and go with the one that's most popular. That's the first thing. The next thing is toxicity. A lot of people have focused on toxicity when it comes to League. League is known as one of the most toxic games in the gaming industry, but personally I don't mind toxicity too much due to the fact that you can mute all, and I think that people who are complaining about toxicity should just go ahead and /mute all, because then they can't really get affected by toxicity. But obviously if you are public figure, then you're obviously going to have more thick skin, therefore it doesn't really get to me as much. But the solution that I have for toxicity is simply to introduce voice chat. and just copy the same system as Riot Games already have in Valorant. And the reason why I think soloQ will reduce toxicity is because that if we have voice chat, you can have a little bit more clear communication when it comes to ganks and comboing and explaining like thought process in terms of how they want to play the game, especially in the early game, meaning that there will be less misunderstandings that can lead to these frustrating moments where the jungler might give double buff to a laner, or a laner doesn't follow up on a gank, or a laner doesn't rotate or collapse on a certain person, or doesn't rotate to a dragon. These are the type of things that are very frustrating, because it's not that someone is playing bad, it's just that they're refusing to listen. And maybe they are playing with mute all, but then having voice chat would simply remove some of these misunderstandings. And I think that is why people get frustrated if someone doesn't listen to them and kind of just soft grieves by doing something completely different. If Riot is not comfortable releasing voice chat for whatever reason, then make it as a test. Either launch it on PBE for a patch, get some feedback, or launch it in certain elos. I've given an example of Masters Plus, or release it on a region and then get some feedback. Once you have then gathered some feedback, figure out, is this something we're gonna share with all regions and all elos, or do we not share it at all and say that it was a complete fail? That's basically it. Then the third thing is MMR. And I've made a bunch of videos on MMR and how to improve it, how to get LP gains, how the system works. And those are like my most popular videos on YouTube by far. And I still to this day get questions about it. So what I like from Riot would be them to come up with the explanation as of to what is the MMR? How do they base their LP gains in terms of the different games? How can they improve it? Stuff like this. Because creators or high elo players will have a good understanding of what MMR is, but we don't know the exact code for MMR. So we cannot give you a 100% guaranteed answer, but we can give you like the closest thing possible just from experience by playing the game, doing different strategies. So if Riot would just come out with an official statement saying that this is how you can improve your MMR or your LP gains, so this is why your LP gains are so low, and how to fix it, I think that will make the people that are playing ranked a lot more happy, and they will then understand what they're supposed to change to have a little bit more exciting LP gains. And I came up with an example because I play PUBG, and in PUBG when you queue up for ranked, at the bottom it says rank points are given based on kills and assists and your team's placement, meaning that the more kills you get, it will positively affect the amount of LP that you would get. Same thing for assists, and same thing for team placement. I'm not saying that Riot Games should copy the exact same thing, that it's this what it's based on, but I want Riot to just come out with a statement saying that the amount of wins in your last 50 games matters, or basically how well you're performing, or based off the enemy team's MMR, your team's MMR, or your duo's MMR, your LP gains are calculated to being this, because at this point it's just a mystery, and not even Riot employees know what the MMR is or LP gains, because I've talked to a bunch of them and they can't even explain it, so they don't even know what it's based off. And then I want them to kind of change the MMR and LP gains. I want them to be a little bit more flexible, and I want them to be based off how you're performing in your last 20, 40, 50 or 100 games, because the more games you have on an account as of right now, the less flexible your MMR is and your LP gains, meaning that let's say your account already has 400 games in soloQ this season. If you play another 100 games and you win, let's say 60 out of 100, it doesn't really change anything. Even though you only lost 40 and you won 60, meaning you have a 60% win rate, that doesn't really positively affect your LP gains. Maybe by 1 LP, if you're lucky, maybe by 2, but most people will change nothing. And that's simply because that it's gonna calculate all the previous games that you have, which were those 400 ones, add another 100 on top of that, meaning that sure, you might have won 60 out of the last 100, but do we take the last 500, might be a little bit closer to 50, and then that's why you're getting those slow LP gains. So make it a little bit more flexible. And the reason why is because everyone who wants a really good MMR and good LP gains and really want an easy climb, they're abusing systems that allows people to get flexible LP gains, which are going on fresh level 30 accounts, playing a few normal games, go straight into ranked, transferring their accounts and retransferring it back to their main region to play their placements all over again based off their old MMR. Now they'll have good LP gains. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are gaining a ton of elo because of it. We are seeing many more players in Masters Plus compared to seasons where this was not a thing, such as Season 8. And then in Season 9 was the first season where we kind of had issues with these inflated LP gains. And since Season 9, the amount of players that make it into Masters Plus have just been increased by hundreds and hundreds of percentages. Same thing for the Challenger cutoff on the West. Same thing for the amount of players above 1000 LP. It's just increasing every single time by many more people than the last seasons before Season 9, where this issue came out in the first place. Then the last thing is remove the elo inflation system, such as transferring and fresh accounts, because I'll be honest, it is not fun having to spend money to get good LP gains, or just the chance of getting good LP gains. And it's also not fun spending a lot of time on getting an account to level 30 by playing normal games to get a high high MMR account, and then have to sit and play through soloQ. And soloQ in itself is also really terrible, so we should also remove that because no one is enjoying it, and there's been many people complaining about it. There are just not enough smurfs compared to the normal player base that Riot is willing to do anything about it. So yeah, that's also another topic that soloQ should probably also be removed with the transfer and fresh account elo inflation systems. Then the last thing for core issues are the Tribunal system. For those of you who didn't play in the early seasons, and I started back in Season 4, but there was even this system a little bit earlier than Season 4. Basically what it used to be, if you were caught for going AFK, griefing, getting any type of punishment, you would have to win 25 normal games in order to play ranked again. You didn't have to play the 25 normal games, but you would have to win them. And that was very frustrating because you would have to sit and try hard in normal games, and not everyone would try hard in normal, meaning that you would definitely lose some of those games if you weren't 5-man pre-mate before you could play ranked again. And basically the system that I've come up with is, for example, take a small percentage of the player base. I've chosen that everyone who's on a level 5 would have the option to review some of these games that are being reported. And then you have 100 of those people in on level 5 reviewing one single game. And they're just reviewing a few highlights from the game. So let's say it takes about 5 minutes to watch all the clips. And then after those 5 minutes, then they should determine if that player was griefing or if he wasn't griefing. And then it basically means that majority votes gets to decide. So let's say that 55 out of 100 people, or let's say maybe a little bit more, maybe make it so 2/3 of people should vote, meaning it's a 67%, 67% of people have to vote on a specific thing. So either they were griefing or not, in order for them to get punished, whatever. You can kind of flex it, whatever. I just want this base idea out there. And then for the people that voted majority, they will get a small reward in terms of RP, discounts on RP, orange essence, blue essence, some of those hextech chests and keys and whatnot, as a reward for reviewing the game. And then majority votes gets to decide if the person was griefing or not. And if he was griefing, then put them in that system where they have to win normal games. Because I had that type of punishment once, and I never wanted to get punished in League again because it was so frustrating having to win those 25 normal games. It was a very effective method in order for people to stop trolling and actually try harding, because it incentivized people to try hard, because now they will feel the frustration of someone not try harding their normal game when they have to win, rather than just saying, oh, it's whatever, it's a normal game. So they have to specifically win those 25 games. this system was really good back in the day, and they, for whatever reason, removed it. And since then, people have just been kind of griefing, getting away with a lot of shit that you wouldn't normally do back in the day. Maybe it's due to the fact that the game is more popular now. I don't know. But I know Riot cares about money, so this is why I came up with a solution that it's the player base that gets to decide, meaning that Riot doesn't have to pay anyone to review these games in terms of hiring Riot employees to do it. Make the player base do it so that we can define if people are griefing or not, and then the people that review the games, give them a small reward. Those are the 4 core issues, and I think if Riot either takes these topics up and comes up with a solution, it could be the ones that I suggested, it could be a similar version to what I mentioned, or it could be something completely different. Basically, I want the things to change, because this current state of soloQ is really shit. A lot of people simply don't care about Season 12, a lot of people are going to Korea for even better soloQ, but not everyone has that option to just say, okay, I'm gonna go to a different country to go play better soloQ. I think it's a lot better to say, okay, soloQ is shit, how can we fix it? And these are my suggestions. Then there are a few bonus features. I have 2, and the first one is permaban accounts. I don't think that every account that gets punished a certain amount of times deserves a permaban. I think it's better to reduce these permabans down to a 1 year or 1 season ban, except for really extreme cases such as DDoSing and death threats and scripting and whatever. Those obviously should still be permaban, but I think that for someone who is or was toxic or did have like games where he either left or didn't do well, should just get a 1 season ban so that they can still play on their account the next season instead of just completely losing everything that they have achieved on that account. Because the issue right now is that if a player gets permabanned right now, they are not going to quit the game and say, okay, I'm not going to play this game anymore. What they're going to do is they're going to go onto some website and then they're going to buy a level 30 account, and then they're going to have either the same type of behavior as on their main account, or because they're so tilted that their main account got banned, they're gonna have even shittier behavior. And this again incentivizes this soloQ type of thing that, okay, a player gets banned on their main account, then they're just gonna get a new account and then play through soloQ. So it doesn't remove the problem. The problem is that this player will continuously have a toxic behavior. He's just gonna have it on a different account. And I think if people know that, okay, they haven't lost everything on that account in terms of skins and games and MMR and achievements and whatnot on that account, they simply just can't play it for 1 year. Yes, people will still play on Smurf accounts in the meantime, but hopefully reduce the behavior, the toxic behavior that I personally have experienced, where they just kind of don't really care because they're playing on Smurf. And then the last feature is the blocking system. So as of right now, the blocking system, all it does is that it removes the chat messages in Champion Select, in-game and after the game from people that you have blocked, which in itself is fine. This is just the standard way. But what I suggest is that some people, especially in ILO, are targeting different type of people. And whenever some people dislike each other, they are just gonna run it down, to be honest. They're gonna grief that one specific person, and they don't really care about the 3 other players that have nothing to do with the situation between the last 2 players. So have a system where you can block a small amount of players, whereas right now I think it's unlimited how many people you can block. Make it a small amount of players where if you block that person, you cannot get matchmaked with them on the same team. Because if we have 2 players that were angry at each other from last game, and one was saying, oh, you were inting, and then the other one says, oh, no, you were running it down, you are so shit, and then it goes back and forth. If they get into the same game, in the same champion select, one of them is locking in Nunu with Ghost Cleanse. And then the other one will probably do something similar, and then they're just gonna run it down. Meaning that those other 3 players that had nothing to do with that last game and don't know what is going on are the victims. And they have to either dodge, and again, there's this 12-hour lockout system to kind of go back into that. So maybe they don't want to dodge because they can't play for the rest of the day then. Or they're just going to lose the game without even having a single percentage chance of winning the game because 2 people will just grief. So make it so that they can't get on the same team, but they can still be in the same game, but on opposite teams. And I am guaranteeing you this. If one player lost another player's game before, he will try hard, the hardest he's ever tried hard is in his entire life, if he sees that that person is on the enemy team, because now one player has lost another player's LP. That player can then get his LP back from that player who griefed him, and the player who then griefed him would lose again, meaning that he would lose 2 times LP, and the guy who was getting griefed would not lose anything if he's just gaining more LP per win than per loss. And that will again encourage people to try hard rather to encourage people to just run it down because a different player was running them down in a previous game. So those are the 2 bonus features. There are a ton of other bonus features, but these bonus features are not really the issue, which is why I've mentioned them separately from the other ones. But I would really love some type of feedback from people that actively play soloQ, regardless of your rank, regardless of how many games you've played. I just want your experiences with soloQ. And if you can recognize any of these issues that I've mentioned, and if they sound familiar, and if these suggestions that I have suggested that could possibly fix this solution, if they're actually good solutions, or if they won't do anything, and if you then have a different solution, I would very much like to hear it down in the comment section down below. And yeah, hopefully this gets some more attention, because I think it's time to improve soloQ. I'm in LPP, meaning that I will try and send this over to a Riot employee, and I can't say which one, but it will be sent over to the game department over in NA, and I'm hoping to get a response. And then if I do get a response, hopefully I do, so hopefully when I get a response, I can probably not showcase which specific Riot employee has responded, but I can probably anonymously showcase the response to the different topics. And then I'll make a part 2 and basically an updated video on what Riot is doing to soloQ, because maybe they are doing some of these things without saying, and maybe they just don't recognize that this is a problem because it's not spoken about, even though it's kind of nice. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like. Please let me know your experience with soloQ, and if you can recognize any of these issues down in the comment section down below. And then otherwise, if you want to see more videos, then remember to subscribe, and then I hope to see you guys on my next YouTube video or on my next live stream on Twitch. Thank you for watching, and see you guys.